Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, episode 73. On this episode of the podcast, Jen interviews Allison Braun, also known as the Business Joyologist, on her work coaching people to find the pleasure in their own business ventures. Speaking of ventures, this is a new one for Allison, who only the day before this interview launched her new website, rebranded from her earlier work as the Bedroom Joyologist. It's not that this isn't an interesting interview on the subject of business. I just can't help but think, ah.
This is Jen Swanson with Communication Diva, the podcast that hopes to explore all areas of communication, talk about skills, interview interesting people, and entertain you just a little bit. And I am coming to you today from a sunny afternoon in July, and today is the last day that I am working as a children, youth, and family minister at a big church nearby. I resigned in January after really discovering that I needed to move forward with my goal of finishing my degree finally at the end of next year and move into the last phase, which will be doing an internship and working with adults more than with kids, although I've absolutely adored working with the youth that I've worked with. So it's been kind of sad. I resigned in January as of today. Which is the 14th of July. And there's been lots of wonderful farewells and sending off parties and a lot of good wishes. So that's been a bit of a transition. And being summer, it's been not slow and lazy like I wish it was. It's been busy with a university course and a kids camp and all sorts of other crazy stuff going on. So I'm a little late in putting out this episode, but there are lots of other episodes to listen to, so hopefully you haven't missed it too much. Now, the person that I'm going to bring to you today is a person who is came into my consciousness a number of years ago, I think, when she was working as the Bedroom Joyologist. And I can't remember if how I found her emails coming to my inbox, but I've sort of been watching what she's offered. I've never actually taken advantage of anything that she was offering, but what she was doing was helping women to be able to communicate with themselves in a more clear, honest way. And her focus at that time was communication in the bedroom, so in intimate settings. And I was quite interested in how she was talking about communication in general. And so quite some time ago, I sent her an email and introduced myself and said I would be interested in having a conversation with you. And it took a really long time for us to finally get it together. And by the time we did, only the day before, she had completely rebranded herself from the Bedroom Joyologist to the Business Joyologist. And she has learned a lot over the past few years that she's been doing this. And it was a great conversation still about communication. So it just goes to show how communication can translate from many different subject areas. And I hope that you will enjoy this interview with Allison Braun. I'll turn you over to it now. So here I am in a coffee shop with my guest for today, Allison Braun, who is the Business Joyologist. Welcome, Allison.
Hello, everyone.
And I'm happy that I am finally talking to you in person, because I think it was about a year and a half ago that I ran across the work that you were doing and found it fascinating and read a bunch of your stuff and thought, I want to interview this person and find out what she's doing in the realm of communication. And just having found out recently that you've switched over to a new business venture, I'm interested in that as well and why that switch happened. So maybe we can just go back a little bit and you can tell a little bit of your story to the listener.
So as you were saying, I have just switched from the bedroom joyologist to the business joyologist. And so I'm a former sex and intimacy expert and coach. And I started with that work basically when I was attempting to find my purpose. I had just taken my coaching certification. I was totally an entrepreneur at heart. And I was trying to what's my specialty? What will make me stand out? And what's my gift to share with the world? And at that point, I hired a coach and joined a mastermind group. And within the intimacy of that group and the open communication, the safety that we had there, they dubbed me the bedroom joyologist because I was kind of their go-to girl for, being that safe space, judgment-free, to be able to open up about their sexuality.
That's okay. We have noise in the background.
We live in Vancouver.
That's right.
And so from that point there, I really was able to create a business that was a full expression of who I was, where I didn't feel like I had to hide any aspect of who I was, and I could communicate clearly, what was really important to me. And what I found by being a full expression of who I was, I started to attract people who were wanting to know what their purpose was, because that was a huge aspect of who I was and what my struggle was in the past. And so what I found is that by being a full expression of who I am and communicating all of who I am instead of hiding bits and pieces, that I've been able to attract people that are very like-minded and are also passionate about being an entrepreneur and sharing their work and their gifts into the world, but need to get a little bit more clear on how to communicate what makes them unique and special. So that's what I'm focusing on now, is helping women who are burnt out and unsatisfied with the work that they're doing find a way to bring in all their skills and gifts, but be able to communicate that in a way that shows value and intrigues people.
So you began with helping people to figure out how to communicate with themselves and with their partners?
Yes, mostly get really clear on what they wanted, their desires, letting go of the people-pleasing and the guilt and obligation that we often find. We often get used to saying and communicating with others what we think they want to hear versus what we actually want. So I really focused on helping them get clear on what they want and then being able to communicate that with whoever they were around, partner being first and foremost in my former work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so then it sounds like the transition from that to the business world is not a huge leap.
No, actually.
Interesting.
If you look past through a lot of my older writing and blogs, you'll notice that I tied in a lot of purpose and work and expression in that area with sex, because I believe that they're so intimately interwoven, and I just love how passionate you are about communication, because really when it comes to communication and what we desire and how to communicate that, it really affects every aspect equally in relationships and sex and in the bedroom as it does outside of the bedroom and in our business.
And that's what I think drew me to you, because I was reading this and I was thinking, wow, she's really a coach and a communicator. And this is just a different topic area that I hadn't explored before as far as interviewing someone. And so that was the first thing that I noticed, not the content as much as far as, how to do this or how to do that, but more so about the communication skills that you were showing with the clientele and with your writing that you did.
Yeah.
So how are you going to take this forward into the business world, and what's your target audience now? Is it a similar group of people, but there will be some differences?
Yeah, it is very much a similar group of people. What I was finding is all of my clients were actually then, who hired me originally for sexuality, were then hiring me for their business. So it was a really natural evolution. Actually, about 6 months ago, I only changed my website yesterday, so it's very, very new. But as about 6 months ago, all my clients were business clients. So I have a feeling I attract people that are very like-minded, but essentially, my ideal client and who I'm working with and focusing on now are women who, and a few extra special men. One of my favorite clients is a man, but mostly women who have been living most of their life feeling like it's not so much their life. They've been living for someone else or someone else's expectations of who and what they should be doing. So that very much is a common thread throughout all of my work. and really just getting in a place of getting in tune with who they are. And in regards to business, they've got a lot of ideas, and they're not too sure what to take action on first and how. So they might have had a business for quite some time, but now they're transitioning to an online world, so they're not working dollars per hour, and they're not trapped, working with 8 clients every day all the time. So they want to really design a business that allows for the lifestyle that they wish for. And for most of my clients, they love to travel. So being able to work through an online avenue really helps a lot. So those are some of the main things that are kind of coming through, and chances are they need to know how to communicate their value, what makes them special, what makes them stand out, because in a world of a million coaches and healers, and a lot of us are conscious service-based providers, and a lot of people focus on the boat. So I'm really passionate about helping others really find out how to communicate in a way that's going to connect with their ideal clients, express the value, so that it doesn't involve selling or anything like that. It's just really authentic and natural and fun, first and foremost.
That's one of the things that I struggle with sometimes is the idea of selling. Because I've tried being a salesperson. I was an Avon lady when I was 15, and I sold Watkins, the spices, and I sold long-distance telephone plans, and I sold vitamins, and I was horrible at it. And I think I finally recently realized that it came down to values, and that it didn't sit right with me to try and sell somebody something. So what advice would you give somebody like me?
Well, I can definitely relate. I think my entrepreneurial passion started because both my parents started off when I was really young doing network marketing businesses. And I've had my dabble in several, and I can relate. There was just nothing that motivated me enough, that I was passionate about, to really devote to it and do it in a way that felt good to me. So I find it definitely has to be something that has those right values and that you are passionate about. So aside from that, what it really comes down to is focusing on what your ideal client is looking for. So it's not about how you do it. It's not about being a Reiki practitioner or a massage therapist or whatever the case may be. It's really about healing something or teaching something that they want to know. So getting them to their end results and communicating from that point versus this is what I do. So an example of that might be, I'll use Reiki because I used to practice Reiki. So instead of being oh, hi, I'm Allison, I'm a Reiki practitioner, I do any energy work and I help you feel really relaxed, and it's really, really healing, so you should try it, it's $40 an hour, versus, oh, what is it that you're experiencing right now? I noticed that you were kind of sitting funny, you look a little bit uncomfortable. Oh, I have this really intense neck pain, I've been really stressed lately. Oh, interesting. And then, at some point they ask you, oh, what do you do? So they're first asking. So instead of just shoving it down their throat, which is what most people associate selling with. Right. You wait to be asked, and then you present it based on what the person that you're talking to is experiencing in certain cases. And then from there, you can just present a solution. So, what I do is I help women who have really tense back and neck pain and issues with posture because they're overworked and really stressed. Does that sound like something that you can relate with? I know that I used to really feel that way too. And then you can just kind of go from there. So it's really about increasing intrigue and having them ask the questions, and then just being able to communicate clearly what it is that you're offering. And that is the solution versus the boat.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. I know that I was listening to an audio version of something called Selling by Giving, and I don't remember the author's name. I'll find it eventually. but it was giving away of that valuable thing, whatever the thing might be. It might be an idea, it might be a concept, it doesn't have to be a thing, and not expecting payment in return.
Yes, and there's a happy balance with that because women are chronic overgivers. So it does definitely come with giving as the first and foremost intention, but making sure that there's a good balanced energetic exchange when it gets to a certain point. So yes, giving without expectation in return, but also knowing when it's time to say, like, this is my job, this is the work that I have to offer to the world. And not like, oh, can I pick your brain over coffee for 2 hours to get free coaching and advice, when in reality that's something that you should be charging for. So that once again comes really clear about communicating boundaries and communicating the value that you have to offer.
I think a lot of practitioners have that to deal with. Doctors, getting asked for free medical advice from people on the golf course or whatever.
Yes, totally. I can't even tell you how many times I've gotten messages saying like, oh, can we go out for coffee? And the whole time they just want to ask advice, which is great, and I'm honored to be that person that's the go-to person for that. But it is really interesting how that comes about, and I think that can be really a big issue for people who don't have clear boundaries.
And then there's self-esteem issues in there too, aren't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and seeing the value that you have to give. Believing that, I hear from a lot of people that it's about what you're worth, and I don't actually completely agree with that. Although that is a factor, I do believe that it has a lot to do with what they're worth. Because when people are committed, when they've invested, they're so much more likely to get the results and use your gifts that you're sharing with them versus, receiving them for free, and, there's not really any incentive for them to take action on it other than, obviously the benefit, but there's no push for them. If I've invested $5 for something, I'll get to that sometime. But if I've invested $5,000, you bet your butt I'm gonna do the work and take those action steps to get the results. So I believe in it's what they're worth, because I've noticed time and again that when you can communicate the value of it and someone takes that step of investing, that they feel empowered and it's exciting for them, they're taking that step for themselves, and then you then are working with someone who's equally as committed as you are instead of you being more committed than they are.
And that would be a question also that I would have around how you set a price on a value, because I know that for myself and for some other business colleagues that I have, this is a real struggling point. How do you know what is an appropriate value and what is, giving something away and what is asking a ridiculous amount? So how do you evaluate that, and how does that come in?
This is one of my favorite things. I love packaging and pricing.
Oh, good.
So this is one of my favorites. And so it comes down with, so here's that point again about it's what I'm worth. So if I were to say like, oh, I'm worth $1,000 an hour, you might be like, screw that, like, that's wonderful, but, I'm not interested. But if I were to express what you would get out of your time with me, no matter how long it was, not even focusing on the time, but more focusing on the outcome, it then becomes what the value of that outcome is to that person versus the time. So that's why it's important to get out of that kind of dollars per hour model. And what that requires, first and foremost, is market research. Not so much in your competition, but more so market research for your ideal clients. Asking them, like, what is it worth to you to get this end result? And it also comes down to your lifestyle design. Like, what do you need to make per your time in order to have the desired lifestyle that you want? And so if you figured out that you need to be making $500 an hour and be working blank hours per month or week to get to your, lifestyle income, then what you would need to do is create packages that went in alignment and provided the value necessary to charge that amount. So it's not just pulling random numbers all helter-skelter, but, putting most importantly, intuition into it and market research into it, following your heart and choosing a number that's a stretch for you, but also you feel confident or almost confident stating. So there's a lot of strategies that kind of go into play when it comes to pricing, and it's really important because, there's nothing like stating a number that you feel really excited about, but not having anyone, see the value in that. So it's a very special practice to be able to pull all those things together and then to do it in a way that feels really exciting to you, but also feels really good and empowering to others. I can remember my first investment of $10,000 in a coach. And at the time, I was making about $20,000 a year.
Oh, unbelievable.
But I can tell you that I've never felt more excited and empowered in my life. And that time frame with that coach changed my life forever. So, if she had not held me to what I wanted, to my commitment to myself, and communicated that very clearly with very clear boundaries, I probably would have been like, maybe I'll do that later. So, I don't know, it's a really exciting thing to help others really step into their desires and their dreams, and to do it in a way that feels authentic and fun and good for you too.
And I think that's the challenge, is to have somebody walk you through that so that you can get to that place that you want to be, working for yourself or whatever that place happens to be. And to take the courage and the time to do it, because it is a commitment, especially if you spent a lot of money. I have a little ebook that's out there, and I found a fascinating thing happened. At first, I put it out at $1.99 because it was 20 pages long, and I thought, well, I can't possibly charge anybody more for 20 pages. I mean, it's just me, right? 20 pages. And it wasn't doing all that well. A few people bought it and all the rest of it. And then I bumped the price up to $2.99, and I sold a whole bunch more. And then I thought, well, what would happen if I put it at $5.99, which is completely counterintuitive, So I think it's true what you're saying about, making it a stretch for yourself.
Yeah, some people will only invest in the highest price package.
Yeah.
Because we perceive higher priced things as being higher value a lot of the time, which is really
Weird.
interesting. But for a lot of people, it's true. And I know for myself, having done, previous student discounts and stuff like that, really wanting to give and really wanting to help those people, that when it was discounted and low priced, that the people that did invest didn't take it seriously. They were the worst clients.
Oh, no.
And it was, I was so much more committed than them. But when I charged the premium prices, my clients were the biggest dream in the world. I could just hang out with them all day, and it was that really nice balanced exchange, and I could give so much more. So it's really exciting.
There's a freedom to it, I guess, if you've got, somebody that you're really excited to work with, and you're not worrying about, okay, I've got to fit 3 more in today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can't even imagine working with 8 clients every day, 5 days a week like they teach in school. Oh.
So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
It's a wonderful question. I see myself having a very similar practice as I do now, focusing on my 3 key offerings, and then also having more of a online school to do. This is kind of a dream that I've had in the back of my mind for a while. Whether or not it'll come into fruition or change, I don't know. But teaching others who want to work in the more taboo field, sexuality in particular, to do what I was doing before, and to be able to communicate their value really clearly, and to have lots of fun with their business design, so that their business doesn't feel like a separate compartment to the rest of their lives. So I don't think a whole lot will change, other than, having more of an online system that doesn't take as much as my intimate time, but there'll be a lot of commonalities. Right now I get to travel whenever I want, and that makes me happy, and that won't change too much, I don't think. And
So you were working a day job when I first met you.
Yes, I have gone from working 50 hours a week, so that's 200 plus hours a month, to now making the same amount as I was working that much in 2 days a week. 2 days a month.
2 days a month.
Yeah, so I was working a lot before I was developing my business.
Good. Well, that's very exciting. So what are the 3 key things that you are offering?
So right now my main focuses are the mastermind group, which is called the Sexified Sisterhood. This is the 3rd year. The first 2 years were primarily focused for women who are wanting to develop the area of sexuality and intimacy in their lives. That will remain the same, but it will be more focused towards entrepreneurs and business owners and having more of the business success model kind of merged in there. And that starts this fall. And the other thing is the pleasure retreat, which also is connected to my previous business. And that's all about, pleasure, ditching the people pleasing and just living life for you and having lots of fun. And that's in Mexico in February.
Nice.
And then other than that, I do hot business dates with the Business Joyologist, which are essentially like 1-day intensives where it's just you and me making love to your business, having lots of fun, working on essentially whatever core focus that you have, whether it's designing a high-value, high-end package or working on sales, or I should say marketing because it's not really sales, and creating a business plan that allows for you to have the lifestyle that you want. So those are the 3 main things. I do longer-term coaching with clients, but right now I'm booked until next year. So those are the 3 main things.
That sounds like you're a busy person for only working 2 days a week.
I know, right?
That's fabulous. If people want to find you, Allison, where can they find you?
The best place is just on my regular website. It has my blog, it has my offerings, it has more information about me and all kinds of fun resources, and it's just www.allisonbraun.com. I believe you'll have the link on the site there. And yeah, everything that you need to find is there. Information about the Sexified Sisterhood is just thesexifiedsistherhood.com, and the Pleasure Retreat is thepleasureretreat.com. So nice and easy.
So very easy to find you. Well, I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule and to meet with me today, and all of the best of luck in the years to come.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see where you take things as well.
Well, I might be calling you. You never know. All right. So there you have it. I hope you learned something from that interview and that you enjoyed our conversation. And if you have anything you want to contribute or talk about on this topic or any other, please feel free to leave me a voicemail using the Speak Pipe button on the right-hand side of your screen. If you are on the Communication Diva website, you can email me at jenn@communicationdiva.com. You can find me on Twitter at JENN_Swanson and then the number 2. Or you can come to the website and there will be a comment box at the bottom of each article and you can leave a message there. I love to hear your feedback on episodes or your suggestions for upcoming episodes and just your thoughts on communication in general. So please do feel free to reach out, and I do answer every email and every comment that comes through, and I do appreciate hearing from you. Next week, I'm going to be bringing you an interview with a woman named Pippa Hodge. And Pippa is, I believe, an occupational therapist who works with children who have disabilities. And I'm going to go out to the riding center where she works with horses and with children and to learn how the horses communicate with the children, how the children communicate with the horses, and how that helps Pippa do her work. So I'm hoping to bring you that next week. Until next time, this is Jen Swanson. Take good care.